I'm Dr. Ashley,
And this is Sherry.
and this is From Her Point of View.
One question, one truth. We have a variety of truths and questions. If you haven't tuned into last season when we did this, our first go round, we had a group of women sit around and everybody provided one truth about themselves based on how they felt about something. They just basically said it out loud and we acknowledged it. And then there was one question that they wanted to ask the group, and all of it's anonymous. So we don't know who said what. So I'm going to choose the first one, and then we're going to discuss it. If it's a truth, you can acknowledge it as your truth or comment on it. But if it's a question, you can provide more feedback. So this is a question. The first question is going to be, what validates you as a person? What are the characteristics that you would say validates you as a person?
I don't remember hearing that one.
I would say my loyalty. I am very solid. Like, what you get is what you get with me. You know, there's no hidden secrets or anything. So I think I'm really keen on that. My loyalty and being solid in my friendships or relationships. You know, so I would say that about myself.
I would say for me, not just a characteristic, but my children validate me. My family validates me. In addition to just I agree my loyalty as well, but I'm a no nonsense, give it to you straight type of person. So for me, those are my validations. I'm not convinced that they have worked 100% for everybody, but you know, perception is up to the other person. So, but that's what validates me.
Golden rule type persons, do unto others as you would like to do unto you. So I'm very giving. I treat people kindly. I treat people like I want to be treated. I'm into people's feelings. So I think that really validates me as a human.
That was an interesting question because it was it could go several different ways, and I'm not sure that validates is the right word for what the person was trying to get at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what would be a better word to put in place of that?
Or what defines you, maybe.
Yeah.
Because when you think about that, and then Toya bringing out her loyalty, that's a defining characteristic. Or I can see where the children or your family coming in as a validation. But then, Sharice, you being empathetic and feeling, that's a defining characteristic.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'll ask the next question. The question I have here is, if you could go back to any time in your life for a redo, at what point would you go to and why?
I think I have a couple more drinks.
Is there a lot of things you want to redo?
I'll answer that, and I'll admit that was my question. But
Okay.
I was trying to think of some thought-provoking questions, but anyway, I would go back to the point after I had my third child. Couple reasons. One, because despite the fathers of my children are my world. So I would never want to change what or who they are. So I wouldn't want to go back before them because I would get different children. So it would go to the point after my child. And because then I feel like, knowing what I know now, if I had started that self-love after my third child, that, you know, my dedication to education and career, if I had started that then, I would be so far more advanced now. So I don't want to say that I regret anything, because I try to live without having regrets, but there are some things that I would do differently from that point on.
And this is after your third child.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think that if I had to go back in time, I would go back middle school, going transition into high school, like in that time frame. And now I can be comfortable with answering questions such as this, because I too used to be like, well, I'm not going to answer that because that's as if I'm not satisfied with my life now or things like that. Like I used to feel like, well, if I say these things, it's as if I don't want to be a mother or things like that. But the reality is, like, that's what I am now, and I cherish my kids, what my life is or whatnot. But if I had to go back and talk to my younger self, I definitely would have taken education a little bit more seriously than what I did, because I just realized that the importance of what that would have brought to my life, and been able to expound and exceed in other areas where I feel like I'm a little crippled now, because I was so ready to grow up and be an adult until I actually had to be an adult. And I just wish that I would have focused on my books. So if I could go back, I would change that.
So if you could go back to a certain point, it would be back to school.
Back to school, like, yes. Now I'm trying to think, what was I in my 8th grade? How old would I have been back?
13?
About 13-ish. So yeah, if I could go back in that time frame when it really started to count, when you're going to transition into high school, and those grades are what will get you into colleges and grants and things like that, I would definitely go back to that and really put myself in books,
Okay.
So for me, I want to say that, because I was like, well, I wouldn't change anything, because I am who I am today because of all the things that I've been through. But if I could go back and change anything, I would probably change the last 10 years of my life have caused me to grow in a different way that I wasn't prepared for. I'll say that probably years 1 and 2 of the 10 were very hard. There was a lot of things that were transpiring in my life that if I knew the outcome of what it was going to be, I would have made sure that that situation never was, because it definitely altered everything from that point on. It changed me completely. And not necessarily in a bad way. I mean, because I accept everything for what it is, but there's just certain things in your life that if you had a choice, you would never go through those things. So I would say the beginning of the last 10 years.
Okay. You go 10 years back.
A few things I would redo, but I'm going to say probably my early 20s. I felt like my world was so small. I didn't take a lot of chances. I feel like if I opened up myself a little bit more and knew that this world was so big and there was so many opportunities out there for me, that I probably would have been more so on a faster pace to success. Like, to me, it feels like it took me a while to get to a successful place. And I feel now that I'm older that I'm getting there. But if I knew, wasn't afraid to step out into that world and meet new people, that I probably would have been at in a more successful state at a younger age.
Okay. Is it Sharice?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you
Yeah.
say it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wish I would have had your approach in life. Let me tell you, I wish I was a little bit more reserved. I would tell you something. I was out there living life,
Really?
and it is overrated. Okay, that's why
It's overrated.
Before I was 19. Okay. No,
I was
I
very
like
reserved.
I was thinking that too as she was answering. I was like, ooh, I wish I
Let
could
me tell you, I was on the wild side.
Really?
just a little bit, boy. Yeah.
No, I was reserved.
I think that if I had to
not a bad
redo
thing.
anything, I agree with you, Toya. I would have probably done school a little bit differently. Now we all know that, I just stopped going to school. But had I gone the collegiate path that I wanted to directly out of high school, I would have been done a lot sooner. And I think that the path would have been a lot easier rather than being married and having kids and trying to do school, all of that at the same time. So if I had to redo anything, I probably would have done school the way that I wanted to do it directly out of high school.
And you know what? Sometimes this topic can be a little, like, I'm just going to say it.
Please say it.
My kids probably wouldn't be here. And that's just the God honest truth. Like, if I would have did things differently. Now, that's not to take away from the fact that I love them. They are my world. Y'all know me when it comes to my kids. Like, they are a priority. Mommy always sometimes, like most of the times, put herself last. And even when I do decide to do something for myself, like maybe get a cheat meal, maybe get a toe done, I still feel guilty about that.
Just one toe?
Yeah, just one toe.
Just one toe.
This time just to get that one big toe done. And that's it. But because I would have been more aimed for self, you know what I'm saying? And I think back then in my younger thing, I didn't have self-love for myself. So I was always seeking that, whatever that would have been, if that was boys, if that was having a child, because I thought that void or whatever it was going to be filled. In honesty, it was kind of selfish decisions for myself and even for my kids, because I wasn't necessarily in a ideal space to give them the life that I would have loved to give them. Not saying that they have a miserable life, but, just really wasn't secure enough, whereas though that would have been the best decision. But again, the path I took is the path that was intended for me. So, this is hypothetical speaking, because we know we can't go back. But yeah, that's kind of like the reality of it. And that's why sometimes it's kind of hard for me to touch upon it, because it's like I never wanted to be that I didn't want my kids, because I do. I just wish that I would have been able to be a little bit more planted in me first.
It's interesting that we have to preface what we say about our children, because I wouldn't want to say this because then it would mean this, or then it would mean that. We all know, we all love our children. That's given. You know what I'm saying? We know that. But cards on the table, I didn't want to be a parent. I didn't want to have children. And so I knew that that was important to my husband. He wanted kids. So I'm grateful for the kids that I have, but cards on the table, I actually didn't want to be a parent. So it's interesting, because as women, you're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to say that.
Right.
And people will impugn your character because you said that. That's my honesty. That's my truth. I love them. They're well taken care of, but that's the truth. And, had I done things differently, like I mentioned with school, they would not be here. I would not be here. You know what I'm saying? Everything would be different. So, this is all hypothetical, but we are able to say, however you feel about it, that's how you feel about it. And there's no wrong or right way to feel about it.
I feel like I'm on the opposite.
I wasn't quite sure if I was, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was going to have children myself. Because as I mentioned before, it took me a while to really start living my life that I really started living when I was in my 30s. And, so having a child when you're just starting to live or thrive is like, oh, I'm really learning about me now. I'm really getting into my life now. And, I don't know if I'm going to have children, because I don't want to have children when I'm 50.
Right.
I don't have children when I'm 50. But now I do have a son. He's 7, and I love him to death. And now, I can't even see myself not having him around. But, it was a time where I had no idea. I didn't want any children. So, which is, it is odd for a woman to say
it's
that.
hard.
Like,
I toggle back and forth because I don't have any children. So hearing you all say what you're saying, it's like, I can't say that I don't have kids because I did not want to have kids. It was never on the forefront of happening. Like, I always made sure that it didn't happen. And then when I thought that maybe it could happen, it just didn't happen. And now that I'm right on the heels of 40, I'm questioning if it will ever happen. So, and like you said, I don't want to be a 50-year-old mom with a 1-year-old child. Like, sorry, that's just not what I'm trying to do. But ultimately, things are going to happen the way that they're supposed to happen, whether there's supposed to be a child or there's not supposed to be a child. So going back to the original question about what would you change, now that I'm on the heels of 40, I feel like, dag, I should have had a kid when all the rest of my friends were getting pregnant. Like, despite the relationship that I was in or the situation at the time, I should have just went ahead and did it because they did it and they're fine. You have that fear of, okay, if I get pregnant and I'm not in a supportive relationship, things aren't going to work out for me. Well, everybody does it and most people get through it. But that was always my fear. Well, the guy wasn't right. The timing wasn't right. The money wasn't right. The living situation wasn't right. So I just kept avoiding it. And now that I feel like I'm in a pretty good space, it's like, am I too old? Like, do I really want to do this? So I definitely go back and forth with the kid thing. And the pressure is there. Everybody thinks something's wrong with you because you're 30-something years old and you don't have a child. Like, what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
But they make you feel bad about it.
Nothing
And
is
then
nothing is wrong with not having a child.
Nope.
Right.
Everybody else did it or is doing it can't influence how your story was supposed to be told. Like you said, everything happens when it's supposed to happen. So I hate that when other women, especially other women, say, you don't have any kids yet? What are you gonna have some kids? Like women
Are you gonna
are
raise it? Are you
the
gonna take care of
like,
it?
that's the end all be all.
yeah, and it's definitely not. I have children. I love my children to death. I can't see me not having any kids. But that's my story. That doesn't mean that, it's right for you or someone else. So don't let anybody make you feel like you should have done it then.
I feel like, and like, that's a great point that you bring up because the majority of the pressure comes from another woman who has children, and she'll say, well, you don't have no kids. And you're like, well, no. Well, why not? Like, well, why should I is the answer. Like,
and why is that your business? Why are you asking me that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Why do you feel like you have the right to ask me that? And why are we not kinder to each other about these things?
And more sympathetic.
More
Maybe I don't
sensitive,
have
yeah.
children because I can't have children.
Right.
And that's not something that I want to talk about. But now you all in my business. And you want to know the what, the why, and the how. That's good, Ashley, because why are we not kinder to one another, especially in that particular realm? Because we don't know anybody's situation. You don't know why things aren't happening. You don't know what happened in life for this not to be in the cards for me. But you're going to pressure the answer as to why. So yeah.
So a lot came from that question. That's good. All right, Sherry, bring us the next one.
So our next one is a question, and the question is, how long should you be in a relationship before the marriage discussion comes up? So I'll read it again. How long should you be in a relationship before the marriage discussion comes up? And is anybody on this call married except for Dr. Taylor?
I'm married.
Okay, so Sharice is married. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Let's let the married folk answer that first.
Uh-oh.
Well.
Yeah,
You go ahead. You can start, sis.
Well, I feel like, especially if the man is more mature, they have to be mature. They're older. How many months? That's kind of hard. What do you think, Ashley?
My whole frame of reference is going to be different because, I got married at 22 years old. The way I was raised, the way I live, I mean, there was not the option for me to live with the man that I enjoy at the time or anything like that. It was, you get married or you're not going to be able to have sex or be in this type of normal relationship. So there was kind of we either going to jump this broom or you're going to have to stay here because I'm moving to Texas and I'm out. So
It's different, right?
we really, in all sense, in all senses of the word, we lucked out, really, because that stuff
Yeah.
does not usually work. Nobody getting married
Right.
22 years old, and now he's
Exactly. That's
40,
true.
I'm 38, and we're still together, and we still like each other. That's
Yes.
that doesn't normally happen. So my answer to that type of thing is going to be totally different than the vast majority.
Okay. Very true. Because I'm a little older, a mature man in their 30s and 40s, I believe that they should be talking about that within 4 to 6 months. And if they know that you're a mature woman and you're trying to really have a serious relationship, that's, as they're dating you, that should always be on the table. Like, who's dating just to be dating in their 30s and 40s? Like, so within 4 to 6 months, they should know that that's what you're looking for. That's how
I'll
I
be
feel.
right back because I'm about to hit my man with an ultimatum real quick.
Look.
Y'all can see this famous don't have no ring on it. Yeah.
So I feel a little differently.
Okay.
I had the same, thoughts younger as Ashley. This is what you do. You get married before having sex, all that. But the way I feel now at my age is that marriage is not necessarily necessary.
Okay.
So yes, of course you have that conversation when you know that you're in love or this is the person you enjoy, you see longevity. Yes, the conversation should definitely be had. I can't set a time period to it because with some people that conversation is in the first date or the first couple dates, and
Very true.
that just means, what are your thoughts on marriage? I think everybody should have that conversation early. What are your thoughts on marriage? But as far as saying, okay, we've been together for 6 months, so when are we going to decide if we're going to be married? I don't think, for me, it's that serious. I do want to know what your thoughts are on marriage, and I want to share my thoughts on marriage, but I don't think it's necessary to put a time limit to it, or to even say, I'm going in to be married. That's just not where I'm at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to add to that, because not being married, in my mind, as I got older, I felt like the clock was ticking, right? Because I feel like I'm a wife. Like I feel like I am nothing but a wife. In every situation that I've been in, I've been wife material per se. We had a conversation with, if you listen to our first episode, From His Point of View, we talked about the characteristics of a woman. And basically, I feel like I fit the profile of what a wife is supposed to be, right? But I'm not a wife. And so with that mindset, I always felt like, well, how come I never been proposed to? Or it just never happened. And when I look back, thank God I was never proposed to, because the idea of being married is just that, an idea. The realization of being married, totally different. And I'm thankful that it never happened, because I would hate to have been locked into a situation where I got to find my exit. Like this ain't it. And like Ashley said, you don't get a lot of people who get married young and 20 years later still like each other and are still friends. Right. So the idea of being married is probably on the mind. And yeah, like you said, Andrea, it should be in the conversation early on. What is your idea of marriage? What do you think about it? Is it important? Is it needed? But with that, you decide, do you really want it? And is it really worth it?
What was the question?
So yeah.
Sorry, I missed it.
Hi,
I was going to ask you. Hey, welcome.
Sorry for the. I'm so sorry. I'm late, you guys. What was the question about marriage?
So the question is, how long should you be in a relationship before the marriage discussion comes up?
Ooh, okay. Oh, y'all got me tripped up on that one. Well, it's so funny because I was just having a conversation with someone a while ago. I don't think you should be in nobody's relationship with nobody 10 years. I have an uncle who has been in a relationship for 20 years and they just got married last year. And they're working on their first year of marriage. And I just felt like that was just like crazy. But as far as that, I don't think no more than 5 years to be realistic, especially at this age, the age that I am now, by me being 30. I think at this point, you either know if you want to or if you don't. And that's just my personal opinion on that one.
Sharice made a good point. She said that for men in their 30s and 40s,
Really like their 40s, they should know. In their 40s.
Because the maturity has hit. What we doing? Like, what are you doing? Do you want a wife or you don't?
And that's the main question. Because is marriage even something that you want? Because if it's not, then that's not going to come up. There's no time limit when that's going to come up.
Right.
And it's not important to everybody.
It's
and
really
so that's
not.
what you have to find out before, early on, is that something that you want eventually? Because for some people, that's not something that they have to do.
I think a lot of relationships are ruined because of that too. Because of that topic alone. Like, it's so, I don't know what the word is, but it's just like, it can make or break a relationship. If somebody doesn't want to be married and you are like head over heels for this person and they don't want to be married, and now you're like, oh wait, I gotta leave because this is what I want for my life. And this person just ain't it because they want to be married. They don't want to be married and you want to be married.
You know what? I can't never really sit down here and say that there was ever a time that I said, if I get with somebody, he better propose to me within 6 months of our relationship. Because I don't think that there's ever, like, there have been men that I know I could have probably had a ring from them if I decided to continue in that. You know what I'm saying? That's just me just knowing the type of men they were. Like, if I wanted to truly be married, I could have been married to a man because I knew I could have got that out of them. But I knew I was not equally yoked with that particular person. It's just like that connection. So I think for me, it's more of a connection. If we happen to connect to that level, whereas though, yes, like I can see that you are the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. So if that means solidifying that with a ring in a marriage, then so be it. You know what I'm saying? But I can't necessarily say that there's ever been a time that I would have based, a time frame on when somebody's supposed to, more so than me wanting to be with somebody who I really feel like that's who I want to be with the rest of my life. I put more emphasis on wanting to find the one more so than it is putting a time frame on when that person is supposed to propose to me. So I can't really say that I ever looked at it like that there should be a time for it.
Can you read the question again for me?
Yeah. The question is, how long should you be in a relationship before the marriage discussion comes up?
Okay.
The discussion of marriage should be brought up in the beginning of the getting to know period. Yeah. That way you can determine if you're wasting your time.
Right.
Yeah.
If that's important to you.
Okay. Here's the next question. How do you practice self-care when everyone at home and work is sucking the life out of you? And we could definitely all talk about this being in this quarantine. How do you practice self-care when everyone at work and home is sucking the life out of you? What do you do for self-care?
Baby, I was just beating head for a month, okay? I got my hair done yesterday. That's self-care for me because, I was feeling a little crazy. I had nails that was coming off. I just been doing it. I don't even know how to really put that in word. I just been doing it. Like whatever it is that I need to I just leave out to get some fresh air. Even though with this pandemic and such, I just been needing to find some type of outlets because sometimes it can be very overwhelming with home and with being at work. So I've been going like pampering myself. That's pretty much what it is. Or finding something good to eat. That is definitely something therapeutic for me sometimes. Or taking a long
That's
drive.
true.
Taking a long drive sometimes can definitely help me too. But self-care, I definitely I got to work on that more for us and pampering myself. But that is some of the things that I do to kind of get me back on track.
Let me tell you, I know this is supposed to be an audio, just voice wise, but if my screen could talk, let me tell y'all, baby,
The chocolate.
show is out here, okay? Do y'all see it? And
You got the Hershey's.
The Hershey Kisses, the wine, and I started getting into candles.
Very nice.
Okay, it is therapeutic. Light that candle, have that scent coming in, and just sit back.
Yes.
And reflect on life and how I got here and how to make sure I don't get back here.
Yes.
Y'all hear my background? That's what I'm talking about. I can't escape it.
Yeah.
Can't escape it.
Sometimes I lock myself in the bedroom and I do yoga like once a week, but I've missed like 3 weeks because it's been crazy. Even I love like lavender. I'll spray some lavender in my bedroom just to relax, and I drink whether it's my wine or I like bourbon. I drink a little bourbon, read a little bit, but by myself, alone, without my 7-year-old.
I'm gonna be honest. I am struggling with self-care right now.
Yeah.
I am. First of all, I absolutely hate time of year. Let's start there. It is the worst time of the year for me every year. It gets dark quick. It's some life stuff, and I hate it. I hate this time of the year. So honestly, I could come home from work, bring my 14-year-old some food, and get into bed. That's the level of my self-care right now. I am working on getting out of that habit, but that honestly is my level of self-care right now. I do I love my nails and my toes, so I keep my nails and my toes done, but I am working every day to try to get back to me because I don't feel that I give too much of myself to my family, to my coworkers, and I just feel like I have not been taking care of me at all. So I'm working on that.
And to be honest, I feel like this platform is for that, to speak about it. I definitely suffer occasionally from depression. My anxiety sometimes go into effect where I break out in these hives. If I start overthinking things or if I feel overwhelmed with certain things. Recently, I had an episode this week where I did not resort to my outlets fast enough. My outlets can be working out, listening to music, maybe walking outside, taking a little walk. I didn't resort to that fast enough. And the thing about it is, like, when you suffer from that, when you get into that space, it's hard to come out of it. And so you want to do everything to prevent from going into that space, because when you get out of it, it just seems like you just want to shut yourself out. And so I noticed that when I'm starting to get to that mood to try to hurry up and get to my outlets as soon as possible to prevent me from going there. So it's just like trying to find other outlets, because sometimes working out may not be feasible. Again, coronavirus is now spiking even more now. So the comfortability of me going to the gym right now kind of put that outlet down. I haven't really indulged in new music, so then it's like I didn't really have the opportunity to jump onto the music thing. So I realized, like, okay, now Toya, you have to find other outlets, because if those two are no longer available, then what? You know what I'm saying? So just trying to constantly find avenues and outlets that I can hurry up and go to, and not only dependent on one, because those things may not be available. So just definitely trying to find other ways to release stress and anxiety. So that's what I go to. My go-to is typically working out, music, and walks.
Well, when you're starting to feel the anxiety and stress, that's your body telling you you need to start taking care of yourself. Your job will replace you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave, they will find someone else to do your job, but you need you. So
Yeah.
taking care of yourself so that you can then take care of other people. You can't pour from an empty glass. So you have to refill that glass. You have to fill yourself up. And it's good that you acknowledge that there are certain things that when you recognize that you're feeling a certain way, I need to do this instead. Or I need to take a step back from whatever is making me feel this way and do something differently. That takes some self-awareness, and it takes some time sometimes, but you have to refill that glass if you're going to be any good to anyone else. And I'm speaking from experience, and I've really gotten a lot better with that. Thankfully, right now, this month is my vacation month from work. And with the job that I have the whole month. So during this month, I really have made it a point to not do anything. So people will call and, what you doing? Nothing. I'm not doing anything. I put the do not disturb sign on the bedroom door. The children are on, they're at their age now that they're pretty self-sufficient and everything. They see the sign, they'll knock and ask, or they'll send a text, but they don't bother me. And it's just because I need to be refilled. I've let so much out in these past however many months. I need to refill. I need to re-up. And thankfully I've been able to do that.
That's great.
I think I've learned that with this pandemic, my job taught me that every now and again it's okay to be a little selfish. And I think that's why I was just jumping out there like, look, I had to take care of me yesterday because with working so much, I work doubles nonstop. And the job alone is draining. And then turn around to become a mother on top of all of that. I've learned it's okay to be selfish sometimes. I don't even want to consider it selfish because, like you said, if I'm no good, I'm not no good to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to treat myself. I do that. So I do have moments where I just sporadically be like, you know what, I'm just going to do this today because I need this for my mental state before I go crazy, because I will go crazy. And I've had plenty of days that I've called Toya going crazy. So it's been, that's what I do for mental self-care.
And that's a method of self-care right there, reaching out to somebody. When you feel like you're getting to that point, you have that person that you can contact and be like, girl, just listen to me. You don't even have to say anything, but I'm about to unload. And that's really important too.
And it is actually to piggyback on that, because the other day, because, this is something that I've come to know that it's okay. And I have to tell myself, Toya, it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to announce it, whatever way that is. If that's announcing it on a platform like social media, if that's a text, if that's a call, it's nothing wrong with that, because regardless if you don't say it or not, you still feel like you need that. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a post on my page and I said, depression is real. And the outpour of love that I received from people, my family, my friends, because the thing about depression is sometimes it hits you so unexpectedly, and you can feel conditioned where you think you're okay, but you're really not. And you do feel like even though you shouldn't, or you want somebody to be there, you still want to be alone. And it's not always a good thing. Sometimes you need that presence or that energy to uplift you. And if you allow or keep pushing people away, it will help. It will make you spiral even more down, depending on what it is that's affecting you or what caused or triggered it for you. And it's one of those things that's kind of hard to explain unless you have endured it, unless you know what it feels like to try to explain it to someone who don't know what it feels like. But I'm glad I put that, what I say, a call of help out, because my mother did a drive-by. I call it a drive-by. She stopped by, she knocked on that door and was like, hey, baby. She brought me my Hershey Kisses, and she brought me a rose and gave me a hug. And she just don't even know how that saved me. You know what I'm saying? Just something as simple as that. My best friend today, she rolled up on me. She like, hey, And sometimes you need people to bust the door down and be like, you're not alone. Because sometimes your mind really makes you feel like you are. So just the importance of recognizing it, because last year was a really hard year for me. And I didn't know that you can reach out and say, hey, I need help. And that can be any type of way, like I said, platform or social media, text message. If it's going to somebody else, like, get it however you can. Reach out whenever or whoever you can. So, self-awareness, and you got to know yourself to understand when things are that you need help, or that things are triggering, or that you need to have a moment to breathe. Like, you have to learn it about yourself. And I'm learning that.
And be unapologetic about taking the time.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I'm not going to, say, well, I need this because I need to, and explain what. No. I need this time. I'm going to go on and take it.
And I said what I said.
And I meant it.
When it comes to self-care.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
I think when it comes to self-care, we have to keep it simple. Everybody feels like self-care has to be a service that's being paid for, or like, and it is, right? But it doesn't have to be. Self-care could be you taking a moment for yourself, taking a walk, having a hot bath, listening to music, burning your candles, cooking your favorite meal. Mm-hmm. Self-care can be so simplified. It doesn't always have to be a means of paying someone else to take care of you, and a form of caring for yourself. Yeah, getting your hair done, getting your nails done, getting your feet done, getting a massage, all of that's great. But there's so many other ways and so many other things that we can be doing for ourselves just to sustain daily. And those are some of the things that I would recommend. I know for both me and Ashley and Toya, because she lived right around the corner, this podcast and just having these conversations with each other is a form of self-care, because we can be honest with one another, and we can talk about whatever it is that we want to talk about. And then once that conversation is over, it's like a weight has been lifted off of us. So, and we welcome that on all ends. So I think if we can just kind of simplify what caring for oneself is, we would be able to manage it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah.
We good?
Mm-hmm.
To the next one.
You've been listening to From Her Point of View, the show curated specifically for women by women, covering a wide range of topics. Though this is From Her Point of View, we want your point of view too. Become a part of the show. Questions, comments, and feedback are welcome through Instagram and Facebook, where we post regularly. Email us at fromherpointofviewllc@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail at 443-507-8032. Tune in weekly, and please share with your family and friends, as we can be found on your favorite platforms: Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Thank you for listening to From Her Point of View.